Good morning, YouTube. Thrash Pondo here with a new installment of my infamous Top 10 list, and this one's kind of a fun one. It's going out to all you folks out there who work in some level of customer service, and it's a Top 10 list of the things that we all really hate. And you guessed it, if you folks like this one, I have at least a few dozen others we can use as well. But before I get started, couple things. One, I want to give a shout out, or should I say shout outs, to a couple of my friends of channel. Well, a couple of my friends. Jesse has announced that he is soon to be married. So I want to give a big shout out to friend of channel Jesse and soon to be Mrs. Jesse. Good luck, folks. Just had my 25th anniversary myself. Good luck with that. Also, you know the routine. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, grab some random person off the street and make them subscribe to my channel. Okay, maybe don't go that far, but let's keep the ball rolling, folks. I got to 100. Let's repeat the process a couple dozen times. All that out of the way, I can now begin with the top 10 list of all those little things that people in customer service can't stand. Number 10. Can you check out back? Now, I understand if you're living in a big box store where you have a huge back room, you might store some merchandise, but when you're working in a store the size of a cell phone shop, you don't have some huge back room, and you certainly know what you got back there. One time I had a lady come in, and she was deadly serious. She asked if we had any more of the generic raspberry lime diet soda. Now, the shop I worked in didn't have a back room. It had a little hallway going to the employee bathroom. So I knew everything we had back there. We had a mop, a dustpan, and a broom. And she's like, can't you look up back for the soda? I'm like, I don't need to. I know we don't have any. She's like, well, can you look? Yes, ma'am. I'll go to the Diet Raspberry Lime Ricky section of the back room and see how many crates I have left. Next. Number 9. When they say it's okay and then complain. This happens quite a bit, particularly in the restaurant biz. I remember one time, this is years ago, a lady asked for some type of Parmesan and she wanted to get ziti instead of angel hair. I forgot. I put the plate down in front of her and she said, I wanted ziti. No problem, I'll run up back and get you. No, it's fine. No, ma'am, really, I don't. No, it's fine. I'd be more than happy to. That. No, it's fine. And anyway, I just decided to take her for her word and think that it was fine. When I picked up the check at the end of the meal, she had actually written in big block letters, "You suck!" I would have gotten you the ziti. Next. Anyway. Used to see this one back around the holidays when people didn't do as much shopping online, but wait until it's too late. Yes. People will try to buy the big ticket holiday item, come into your store with this desperate look on their face, and ask for blank, and you say, oh, we've been out of stock for weeks, and it's almost as if you can't be out of stock, I still need one. Like that old joke, I can't be overdrawn, I still have checks left. It's like, well, can't you? I've been out of this for weeks. Best thing I can say is special order it and get it in January. They can buy it when they're in returning all the stuff they've already exchanged that they didn't want, which also happens. But, next. Number 7. Can you open another register? I hate this one. Stores have limited staff, and if they only have one register open, it's because they can only afford one cashier at that moment. I've also worked in stores that have 2 cash registers, have had 2 employees on, and they say something stupid like, well, can't you just pop into one of them? Well, I'm supposed to knock him out of the way and ring your purchase in just so you can get out of here? No, wait in line for everyone else. Or when one cashier is on break and some curmudgeon-y coot comes up to you and says, well, can't you hop on that register? I see 2 employees, 2 registers. And I'm like, sir, that's amazing. You should be on what's my quantity. Funniest story, this is a true story too, by the way. Years ago, I was working in the Chinese restaurant and that one of the gentlemen I used to wait on came in and looks like someone had just shot his favorite dog. Not just any dog, his favorite. And I go, hey, big guy, what's going on? He goes, oh, well, long story short, he was in a liquor store buying a six-pack of beer and wanted to open another register. And when they wouldn't, he hemmed and hawed. And the guy in front of him who was buying a case of beer says, hey, if you're in such a hurry, go in front of me. So this gentleman buys a six-pack of beer and says, hey, give me one of those new scratch tickets. They did. He's scratching it right there because he's in such a hurry, but he wants to scratch his ticket at the moment. Guy behind him buys his case of beer, says, I'll take one of those tickets too, you know. $1,000,000. If this gentleman had waited his turn patiently, he'd be $1,000,000 richer. Postscript. A few days later, he came in and was complaining because I was taking too long to get his drink. I said to him, you haven't learned patience yet? Oh, that did not go over well, let me tell you. Next, number 6. Can't you call someone? Whom? When I don't have an item, I don't have Michael Eisner's phone number on speed dial. I can't call him up and say, hey, can you get me this item too sweet? You know, or when the registers are down. Can't you call somebody? Well, yeah, when they're back up to make sure they're online. At the moment, they're just down. If I knew who to call, I would have done it. You don't have to remind me to call someone. If I haven't called someone, it's because there's no one to call. And I would have thought of it. And speaking of which, moving on to next, the infamous well, can't you just? I remember I once had a blackout in my area. And when the power came back on, we were waiting for things to come back online to make sure the registers were working, the security system was working, and just we were capable of serving customers. People started like hanging on my gate. Open up, open up, the power's back on. Yep, in the minute and 45 seconds it takes for me to get my systems back online, I will reopen. Oh, everyone else is open now. You need to open now. As soon as my system's back up. Well, can't you just... As soon as my system's back up, I will open that gate. And speaking of which, well, can't you just... Next. Oh, I hated this one. This was a biggie when I worked at the video store. People would ask for some very strange, avant-garde, never heard of movies. They like to stump you. They would come up with movies that no one had heard of. Have you special order it. And if it was back ordered or the warehouse didn't have it or it took longer, they would complain. And I would tell people, I go, normally it takes 7 to 10 days, but it could take... There were movies I got like months later. And they'd be like, okay, that's fine, that's fine. And then what they would do is they'd call like every week. Some people would call every couple of days. Is my movie in? Is my movie in? Is my movie in? And if they waited too long, they'd get mad again at you. Well, can't you just call someone in the warehouse? The warehouse won't answer the phone for reasons that are all too obvious. Anyway, next. Oh, this is a fun one. Steal merchandise from you and then try to return it for cash. Yes, this actually happens more than you'd think. It's not the only reason, but it's one of many reasons why you're supposed to get a receipt when you actually buy merchandise so you can return it to prove that it was actually purchased. Usually people don't have the gall to return it to you. They'll try to return it somewhere else or bring it to a pawn shop or whatever. But there was one case, this is years ago. And I'm not saying this person actually stole it, but you put the pieces together. It was right before the movie Titanic was coming out, which was one of the biggest movies in recorded history. Now, right before it came out, and we had special ordered probably 300 for people who wanted to reserve in advance. But right before it came out, we got a bunch of old merchandise for it, like old school reprints of the newspapers with the headline Titanic sinks, coffee mugs, little figurines, a musical jewelry box, which I thought was a little on the nose. But in any case, we got one, and I mean that literally, we got one copy of this documentary about the whole sinking. And they did something which I thought was a little, it happens a lot in home theater. They made the title look like it just said Titanic. So at a glance you thought it was the movie Titanic, and then at the bottom it was the complete documentary. And I put all this merchandise up on a table up front by the front door, and within an hour the documentary was gone, and the wrapper had been peeled off and stuffed behind something else. Oh well, easy come, easy go. I actually called my district manager up. Not because it was such a heavy hit, but just because I thought he'd be amused by it. Boy, won't that person be disappointed. Well, apparently they were. Because the next day, a lady comes in and says, yes, I need to return this for cash. And I go, oh, I'm very sorry, ma'am. We didn't sell this. Yes, you've hit the nail on the head. It was this movie in question. And she's like, oh, no, my son bought it for me, and he bought it here. Can I see the receipt? Oh, you didn't give him a receipt. Gee, I wonder why. Do you have our wrapper? No. He said he got it without the wrapper on. Man, we don't sell merchandise without the wrapper on. Oh, no. He bought it here. And she started to go into her camera routine. And I finally, thankfully, got through to her. I go, ma'am, you don't understand. We did not sell this merchandise. Now, it's entirely possible the kid bought it from somewhere else, thought he had bought it from us, misremembering, somehow got it without a receipt or original packaging, benefit of the doubt. But either way, if it was our merchandise, naughty, no biscotti. And the number one thing, at least in this list, we hate is when you ignore our advice and then get mad at us. That happens all the time. In fact, in my unpublished book of memoirs from my retail days, there's an entire chapter called It's Your Fault I Didn't Listen to You. Yes, it's like you tell people something with the gravest of importance, they dismiss you because, well, what do you know? And then come back in and yell at you because you didn't do a better job convincing them. Personal favorite. Years ago, one time, this lady came in and asked for a copy of The Lion King. Now, The Lion King was out of print at the time. In fact, it was in what they call the Disney Vault, which is where Disney stops producing it and takes up to 7 years to get it back out. But by some miracle, the warehouse must have found a case lot or something and distributed them. I got 3 copies. And I'm like, wow. And I actually put them on the counter. Because every time someone bought a Disney movie, I'm like, hey, just so you know. I probably could have sold a case that day. But regardless, this lady asked. And I said, you're in luck. Here you go. And she's like it's a steaming pile of puppy doo-doo. And I go, something wrong? She was like, why is it so much money? And I go, oh, it's out of print. Well, then it should be cheaper. Disney films don't work that way. And long story short, she's convinced she can find it cheaper somewhere else. And I said, well, it's probably previously viewed. She goes, no, she will find a new copy for less money. And goes off in a huff. Don't think much of it. I sell all 3 of my copies, and the next day she goes back. And it's like, okay, you win. And I'm like, well, what do I win? And she's like, I want to buy one of those copies. And I'm like, sorry, I sold out. And now she's furious because she's willing to pay the retail price, but I don't have any. And wouldn't accept the fact that that's all there were, even though I made it very clear the day before. Actually insisted that I special order her one, even though I made it very clear we wouldn't get one. And she had the nerve to say, well, why not? And I go, because it's out of print. But no, we didn't get another copy. Now, that's all I have for you folks today. If you have any crazy stories that you've endured in retail, feel free to put them in the comments below. If you have any questions about other funny stories I've had in retail, like I say, I have a book, and it's that thick, of crazy stories. I'd be happy to share more of them with you. But for now, I shall leave you with this. I keep going off camera. Anyway, be good, be safe, happy Good Friday, and I'm looking to seeing you all again very, 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 very soon.